Okay, guys, your next assignment is going to be a value study. So I'm going to show you an example of student work. You're going to have these different photographs to choose from, and there it is. You'll have to look at it on your Chromebook this year to do it. There is the finished student work. So this is an excellent job, and to do, something like this, you're going to have to put in some time. That's why you have a week to do this. So first off, big question. You don't have to do this background. The background is not really important to me. If you want to, go ahead. But if you want to just kind of like ignore all the background and basically make it shading, you're going to have shading in the background, but you can do that. Another big question is this tabletop stuff. There's like wrinkles and stuff on the tabletop. A lot of people struggle with that. I'll try to show you a way to do it, but it's not really that important, so don't get too worried about the tabletop stuff. Now, I'm drawing this a little bigger. Here's my example. I'm drawing a little bigger than the student did, and I want to encourage you guys to draw big. I would much rather see you draw big and run stuff off the page than to draw small and have a bunch of little stuff in the center of the page. So you can kind of expand it a little bit, or you can draw it the exact same size. It's up to you. So I've already started, and I want to show you guys key. Number one thing, when you guys are working on these drawings with value, and the focus of the drawing is value, then I want you to really, really, really focus on getting rid of pencil lines. So pencil lines should become at least like shaded sort of areas, and most of the time you're just going to like totally remove them. So this cup used to be a complete pencil line, but now if you look at it, you don't see any pencil lines. So something you can think about doing, this can be really nice technique too. You can use an eraser to create lines when you have like a white line. Got a little overboard there. You can use an eraser to create lines. So when you start this drawing, start on a front object. Pick an object that's not overlapped by another object, like I started with this cup, and then use it as like your guide. Once you get it drawn correctly, then you start drawing the objects around it, underneath it, all that stuff. So I'll just demonstrate this really quick, and I want to show you guys, this is all about getting different values, paying attention to shadows, and just looking at what's there. Don't think that this is all going to be the same, because this has actually got many different values. This cup's got all kinds of different values on it. So let's get it where I can see it. Don't forget to actually look at what you're drawing. It's super important. So you can start with just kind of putting on the lightest values. It's usually the best idea is to try to start with your lightest values. And to me, the lightest values are kind of up in this upper corner. It's pretty much white here. But even then, look, it's whiter here than it is here, which means that this area must be kind of like a highlight. And since it's not a very shiny object, it's not a very sharp highlight. So I can kind of sort of shade around it very lightly. Okay. Now it starts to get darker over here. Definitely looks a little darker in this area. And when you guys do your drawing, by the way, you'll notice my drawing lines are really light. Keep them light. You can draw all your objects first, but I wouldn't. I would go ahead and get 2 or 3 objects drawn well and then start shading, because this is an assignment about shading. You could draw all the objects perfectly, but if you don't shade them, you're not going to get a good grade. If there's no shading on your paper, you're probably at best going to get a D minus, because this is an assignment about shading. So I really don't care how great the objects are drawn. I mean, they need to be decent, but it's more about the shading than anything else. Okay. Now, just to talk about background a little bit. So I have a cup on top of this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of block in where that's gonna be at. Looks like about like that. And I'm going to just kind of show you when you shade up to edges, the background is, we don't need it to be like solid black, but it needs to be fairly dark so that objects, these are white objects, so they're going to look a lot better on a dark background. Now, you don't have to shade every bit of your background, but you definitely need to shade kind of far enough away from the objects where it doesn't look like they're just surrounded by black. So I can't just shade around them. I'm going to have to shade farther out. How far out? Maybe out like in this area, but you don't have to shade the entire background right up to the edge. You can kind of leave the edges a little bit light if you like. I think that would look great. So your background's just, for me, I just think I'm happy with just a nice, smooth background. Don't need any details, anything like that. So you're shading right up to the edges of objects, and you're trying to get rid of pencil lines. So pencil lines become the shading. Now, I'm not going to finish this background right now. I'm going to finish it later, but don't forget, you do need to finish your background out away from your objects farther. So just, remember, these things, use them sparingly, and don't just blend all over the place, because we're not trying to turn the whole thing gray. You're trying to just smooth out shading where it needs to be smoother. This object's not done yet, but it's getting close. It just needs a little blending, needs a little bit more shading, and looking for a little bit more detail in where the shadows and stuff are. So I need to get this shadow here that I started for the cup kind of blended in to the object. Okay, so that kind of gives you a demonstration, guys, about what I'm trying to get you to do here. Remember, more background, lots and lots of values. You should have white on your paper, you should have black on your paper, and many, many different shades of gray in between. Oh, and for the tabletop, so when you get down here to these tabletops, you can kind of, like if you want a challenge, look for drawing the wrinkles first, look for wrinkles. And then when you look at these wrinkles, you'll probably see that they're light on top and kind of dark in the middle. So it's really just, they're just random shapes up here. And again, they're not super important to me. Like if you don't have these wrinkles, you're probably not going to, it's not going to affect your grade. But if you want a challenge and you want to try to get it done and make it look good, make these wrinkles look real, then you kind of do sort of this. So there's a wrinkle. And again, we're not trying to show them with lines, so if this is lighter, then that means that what's behind that wrinkle, this part that's smooth, must be darker. So you can kind of blend it in, make it nice and dark through here.